Let me tell you about the day I learned what real power looks like. Because if you told me a year ago I'd be at the center of a battle that'd pit 3 generations of family history against a woman with a laminated rulebook and a taste for champagne, I would have laughed you off my porch. But here we are. Some mornings I still wake up expecting it all to be a bad dream. Then I look out at that bridge, and I remember. So picture this. I'm standing in the cemetery, dirt still wedged under my fingernails from saying my last goodbye to the man who raised me like a son, Ezra, my great-grandfather. Phone buzzes in my pocket. I barely glance at the screen, figured it was just a neighbor offering condolences. But it's a video. The sound it's first, chainsaws howling, chewing through century-old oaks like they're nothing but brush. Then I see it, that hand-hewn bridge, every board carved by Ezra back in 1952, toppling into Clearwater Lake. My family's lifeline for half a century, reduced to floating splinters before the suns even burned off the morning mist. Let me tell you, I could taste the diesel smoke still hanging in the air, sweet and sick like a funeral shroud. They did it at 6 a.m. while I was at Ezra's funeral. By the time I made it back from burying the man who built our world with his hands, everything he'd left was scattered in pieces downriver, and the only thing left behind was muddy tire tracks and a sense of being robbed in broad daylight. Now, I don't know if you've ever had your whole past bulldozed while you were still in mourning, but it's a feeling you don't shake. That bridge was where I learned to fish, right alongside Ezra, worms squirming between my fingers, sun coming up over the lake. It's where my dad dropped to one knee and asked Mom to marry him under a July moon in '78. 3 generations crossed that bridge to get to our little island, 12 acres of pines and memories. And now, stranded. No way to drive on or off. Just us, an old pontoon, and an HOA resort gleaming across the water like a bad joke. Their president, Cordelia Brightwater, name sounds made up, doesn't it? Was probably toasting herself with a glass of bubbly, thinking she'd wiped out the last eyesore in her perfect world. But what Cordelia didn't realize is that the bridge was more than just sentimental. It was the legal key to water rights worth millions. And she just started a war on the wrong day with the wrong family. You ever have somebody destroy your legacy while you were saying goodbye to the person who built it? If you have, let me know where you're watching from. I want to hear about it. Bet your HOA's got some stories too. But listen, this wasn't just about revenge for me. This was about standing up because regular folks were supposed to play by the rules, right? But sometimes the people making those rules figure they don't apply to themselves. My name's Jasper Thorne. I'm the last of a dying breed, I guess 3rd-generation boat mechanic, still shaping planks by hand. I've got permanent motor oil stains under my nails, calluses thick as cedar bark. Ezra, my great-granddad, wasn't just a builder. He was a visionary. In 1952, he bought that 12-acre island for $800 and a handshake. Built everything himself, cabin, workshop, and a bridge one board at a time. You could walk through my shop today and still see his old tools on the walls, cedar shavings curling on the floor. We had a little paradise until Cordelia showed up. 3 years ago, she moved in with lawyer money, that corporate accent, and a spotless white BMW SUV. Picture this, a woman who never had dirt under her nails, whose khakis have sharper creases than a dollar bill. Every morning, she'd cruise the lake on her pontoon, snapping pictures of anything that didn't fit her vision. The bridge became her obsession. She called it an unauthorized structure. Environmental hazard, she said, though it had been there before any zoning laws even existed. Her eyes never left us. She watched from her deck with binoculars, cataloging every family member crossing to the island. The demolition was no accident. Ezra passed on a Tuesday night. He was 96. The funeral, Thursday. By dawn Friday, Cordelia's crew was there with trucks and chainsaws, a 48-hour emergency notice filed while we were grieving, so we couldn't fight back. 3 generations of memories shredded before breakfast. I'll never forget the sound. Chainsaws, timber snapping like gunshots, the stink of diesel burning in the mist. By the time I got the call and rushed back, the bridge was gone and Cordelia stood on her resort deck, smiling, watching the debris hauled away. My grandmother Dolores, 89, sharp as a tack, couldn't even visit Ezra's grave anymore. Too frail for boats. My shop started suffering water damage because deliveries couldn't make it across. And property values? They tanked. But worse was the isolation. For the first time in 70 years, the Thorne family was marooned. Prisoners on our own land. That's when I noticed the surveyors, strange men with clipboards, measuring water depths where our bridge used to be. When I asked Cordelia about it, she just smiled and talked about development opportunities and highest and best use. The writing was on the wall. She wasn't done. Legal harassment kicked off a week after the demolition. First, nuisance complaints. My boat storage, unsightly. Never mind, I'd kept boats in the same spot for 20 years, visible only from her resort's fancy deck. Next, cease and desist letters. Apparently, every time we fished, we were trespassing. The HOA, Cordelia claimed, now held exclusive water rights, citing some obscure doctrine. $5,000 fines per day for unauthorized watercraft. That included Grandma's old pontoon, the rowboat I built, even my nephew's kayak. She wanted to turn our family lake into her private swimming pool. But there's something about being raised by builders. You learn that every problem has a solution, and sometimes the best tools are hidden where nobody looks. While Cordelia was cranking out violation notices, I was digging through boxes in Grandma's attic. Tucked between war medals and a wedding dress, I found a manila envelope. Ezra's original survey notes, maps drawn by hand. Trip to the courthouse felt like hitting gold. Ezra hadn't just bought the island. He'd bought mineral and water rights to the entire lake bed. Rights never transferred, never sold, just forgotten as time went on. Here's the kicker. Those rights were still mine. Every boat, every swimmer, every dock, they all needed my family's permission. Even better, the deed included a perpetual easement for bridge access. That meant we had the right to build and maintain a bridge forever. Not even an HOA could take it away. Armed with that knowledge, I rebuilt the bridge. Ezra's blueprints in hand, each nail a declaration of war. Cordelia wasn't happy. She arrived with a deputy claiming environmental destruction. The deputy, a young guy named Martinez, couldn't decide on the spot, ordered me to stop, pending investigation. Cordelia filmed the whole thing, announcing to her camera, "This is what environmental terrorism looks like." But what she didn't know is I've been filming too. Every violation, every letter, every visit from the law. Unlike her social media theatrics, my footage was evidence. Meanwhile, I filed paperwork to officially record my water rights and easement. That's when I learned something wild. Asserting water rights meant I could charge rent. Every boat in her marina, every swimmer, every drop of water being used was legally on my property. Cordelia had brought a laminated rulebook to a legal gunfight. Her next move? All-out social warfare. Suddenly, I was accused of running illegal businesses, evading taxes, being an environmental terrorist. The local paper, primed by Cordelia, ran a hit piece. She pressured the council for new restrictions. But two could play that game. I started hosting boat repair workshops, bringing neighbors together. Real people, real relationships, no laminated rules required. The breakthrough came at the Historical Society. That's where I met Marcus Rivera, retired environmental scientist. He'd been tracking the lake's health since the resort started construction. Water quality had dropped, fish populations crashed. Marcus's data, paired with old photos of a healthier lake. Our lake, with our bridge, blew Cordelia's story apart. We built an alliance, proposed habitat restoration, and suddenly I wasn't the terrorist. I was the guy leading a conservation effort. Town council hearing was packed. Cordelia brought a slideshow. I brought 3 generations of stories, Marcus's data, and testimonials from families who'd been pressured to sell out. Cordelia cracked, shouting, "Some of us care about progress, not living like hillbillies." Silence. Half the room was descended from those hillbillies. Council tabled the decision, granted a restraining order, but Cordelia's mask had slipped. People saw what she really was, a bully in a business suit. But she didn't stop. The liens came next, $12,000 in fines for violating rules that never applied to us. Then her lawyer called, offering to buy our property for a quarter of its value. Out of compassion. I realized then I was done playing defense. I hired Winston Clearwater, retired lawyer and legendary for catching snakes in the grass. Winston dug in, discovered we'd never joined the HOA, and the original covenants excluded us. Even better, the emergency order for the bridge demolition, signed by an engineer who'd never set foot on our land. It was all fake. We filed a countersuit, $500,000 in damages, injunction for harassment, and criminal charges for fraud. The council meeting where I announced it, standing room only. I presented the deed, the original rules, the fake inspection. The room erupted. Other families stood, sharing their stories. Winston finished with, "Mrs. Brightwater, filing fraudulent liens is a federal crime. We'll be filing with the FBI in the morning." Cordelia's face went sheet white. 3 weeks later, Winston emailed me. Subject line, "You need to see this now." He dug into Cordelia's construction permits. The resort was built on protected wetlands with fraudulent environmental studies, dumping untreated waste into the lake, violating state and federal law. Worse, it was all on our property. Cordelia had silenced opposition, destroyed the bridge to keep us from seeing the worst violations. We built a coalition. Winston, Marcus, Grandma Dolores, and Sage, the local paper's editor. We set up 24/7 monitoring, filed complaints, and readied evidence for every agency, from EPA to FBI. Then came the last act. Cordelia, sensing the walls closing in, hired a PI, sabotaged my workshop, tried to bribe county inspectors. She even staged a fake fuel spill at Ezra's grave, hoping to justify a public safety seizure. But we had it all on camera. The EPA caught her goons red-handed. Her plan to frame us for pollution handed us the proof to bring her down. Social media warfare, more threats, even an offer of $300,000 to just go away. My answer, loud enough for the whole hardware store to hear: we don't negotiate with terrorists. Grandma, star of a viral video, turned public opinion for good. When Cordelia had me arrested on trumped-up charges, Winston, Marcus, and Sage live-streamed the whole thing. Federal investigators were watching. The sheriff's department wound up under oversight. The judge who signed the warrant? Under investigation for corruption. Finally, Labor Day weekend. Cordelia's big investor meeting. She stood at her podium selling eco-friendly expansion as the future of lakeside luxury. I showed up, original deed in hand, Winston and Marcus by my side, Grandma watching with a smile. As I held up that deed and Marcus projected charts showing 3 years of pollution, the FBI walked in and arrested Cordelia for everything from environmental crimes to mail fraud. The look on her face, priceless. Within 48 hours, the EPA shut the place down, began emergency cleanup. Cordelia was sentenced to prison. Her resort sold to pay restitution. The buyer? A coalition of environmental groups and local families. They turned it into the Ezra Thorne Memorial Nature Center. The lake is healing, fish thriving, water clearer than ever. My workshop is now a teaching center. Marcus's daughter got the first scholarship from our new environmental foundation. And the bridge? Stronger than ever, filled with stories and footsteps, mine grandmas, students learning the value of building something that lasts. This fight became the blueprint for families across the country, proof that you can beat back corruption and greed if you're stubborn enough. Before I sign off, what's your HOA horror story? Drop it below. Let's see how many folks out there are tired of bullies hiding behind rules. And if you want more stories like this, you know what to do. Because knowledge is power, and the more we share, the harder it gets for the bad guys to win. The sun's up, the water's clear, and my great-grandfather's bridge stands strong beneath my feet. Some battles are worth fighting. Some bridges are worth rebuilding. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep fighting the good fight.